In the early 20th century, residents of Neverwood, a small rural town, began reporting sightings of a ghostly train on abandoned tracks at midnight. Witnesses described hearing a haunting whistle and noticing mysterious footprints along the rails. Local lore claims the train was involved in a tragic accident that claimed many lives. In the 19th century, during renovations of an ancient church in San Biagio, Italy, workers uncovered a hidden crypt containing several mummified bodies. Unusually, the mummies were arranged in a circle with their limbs positioned as if in the midst of a dance. Locals soon whispered that on moonlit nights these mummies appeared to come alive and perform a ghostly ritual from a forgotten era. In 1899, in a remote Siberian village, a bride was discovered encased in ice near her home. She lay in a wooden coffin, still dressed in her exquisitely preserved wedding gown, with a mysterious inscription hinting at a lost love. Local legends say she was cursed to wander the icy tundra in search of her vanished beloved. Despite several investigations, her true identity remains unknown. In 1925, Colonel Percy Fawcett, a British explorer, vanished in the Amazon rainforest while searching for a mythical lost city he called Z. Fawcett, along with his son and a companion, set off deep into uncharted jungle territory, confident that they would discover an ancient civilization hidden within the dense wilderness. They were last seen traveling along the Xingu River, where they sent a final letter stating they were venturing into hostile terrain. After that, they disappeared without a trace. Over the years, multiple rescue missions were launched, but no sign of Fawcett or his team was ever found. Some believe they were killed by indigenous tribes, while others suggest they may have succumbed to disease or starvation. Even decades later, rumors persist that Fawcett may have chosen to stay in the jungle, abandoning civilization entirely. In 2007, Carlos Camejo, a Venezuelan man, was declared dead after a severe motorcycle accident. His body was transported to the morgue and prepared for an autopsy. However, as medical examiners began making an incision, something shocking happened. He woke up in excruciating pain. The coroner immediately realized the mistake and rushed to stitch him back up. When Camejo's wife arrived to identify his body, she was stunned to find him very much alive and sitting up. The case is considered a rare example of Lazarus syndrome, where individuals unexpectedly regain circulation after being pronounced dead. In 1994, residents of Oakville, Washington woke up to a bizarre phenomenon. A gelatinous translucent substance had rained down over a 20-square-mile area, covering homes, cars, and streets. Soon after contact with the mysterious blobs, many locals fell ill with flu-like symptoms, while some pets reportedly died under unexplained circumstances. Scientists analyzed the substance and found it contained human white blood cells, but no nuclei, making it unlike anything naturally occurring. Some speculated it was a secret military experiment, while others believed it was a bizarre weather phenomenon, possibly caused by jellyfish debris lifted by the ocean and carried inland by storm clouds. In 2003, a Brazilian family was attending a funeral when the deceased suddenly walked into his own service. The family had been mourning the loss of their relative, who had reportedly passed away in an accident. However, just as they were about to lay him to rest, he arrived alive and well. Confused about the commotion, authorities soon discovered that a homeless man had been mistakenly identified as the deceased due to a stolen ID. The real man had been completely unaware of his own supposed death until he stumbled upon his grieving relatives. In the 18th century, a disabled man named Owen Parfitt mysteriously vanished from his own doorstep in Somerset, England. Parfitt, who had been paralyzed for years, usually sat outside his home, where neighbors helped him in and out of his chair. One evening, as a storm approached, his sister and a neighbor went inside for a brief moment. When they returned, Owen was gone. His chair was undisturbed and no signs of a struggle were found. Given his inability to walk, it was impossible for him to leave on his own. Yet no one had seen anything suspicious. Despite extensive searches, he was never found. Theories range from kidnapping to supernatural involvement, but no clues ever surfaced. In 1950, a man dressed in 19th century clothing was spotted wandering in the middle of a busy New York street. Witnesses said he appeared disoriented and confused, as if he had never seen modern cars before. Moments later, he was struck by a vehicle and killed. When authorities searched his body, they found old coins, a business card for a shop that hadn't existed for decades, and a letter dated from the late 1800s. Even more bizarre, his identification matched the records of a man who had mysteriously disappeared in 1876. In 1943, Alan McGee, an American World War II airman, faced a near-impossible survival story. During a bombing run over France, his aircraft was hit by enemy fire, forcing him to bail out without a parachute from a staggering height of 22,000 feet, 6,700 meters. As he plummeted toward the ground, he lost consciousness from oxygen deprivation. In an unbelievable twist of fate, McGee crashed through the glass ceiling of a train station, which cushioned his fall just enough to prevent instant death. Despite suffering multiple broken bones, severe injuries, and deep wounds, he miraculously survived. Captured by German forces, he received medical treatment and later spent the rest of the war as a prisoner of war, eventually returning home. In 1957, a tragic car accident in Hexham, England took the lives of two young sisters, Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock. Their parents were devastated, but a year later they welcomed twin daughters, Gillian and Jennifer. As the twins grew older, they began to exhibit uncanny knowledge of their deceased sisters' lives. Jennifer had a birthmark in the exact same place as Jacqueline, and both girls could accurately describe places they had never visited, including their late sister's favorite playground and their school. Even stranger, they developed the same fears and habits as Joanna and Jacqueline, despite never having met them. When the twins turned 5, their strange recollections faded completely, and they lived normal lives. Sir Francis Bacon, the philosopher and scientist known for developing the scientific method, met his end due to an unusual experiment gone wrong. In 1626, Bacon hypothesized that freezing meat could preserve it, long before refrigeration was a common practice. To test his theory, he went outside during a snowstorm, bought a chicken, and attempted to stuff it with snow to see if the cold would prevent decay. Unfortunately, the extreme exposure to the cold left him soaked and shivering, and he soon developed pneumonia. Within weeks, he died from complications related to his illness, all because of an experiment that ironically helped pioneer the concept of frozen food preservation, centuries before it became reality. A controversial theory known as the phantom time hypothesis suggests that nearly 300 years of history never actually happened. Proposed by historian Heribert Illig in the 1990s, the theory claims that the years 614 to 911 AD were fabricated due to errors in historical record-keeping, political manipulation, or calendar miscalculations. According to this theory, the Holy Roman Emperor Charlemagne never existed, and the Middle Ages were partly a fictional construct created by medieval scribes. Supporters point to inconsistencies in architectural, archaeological, and astronomical records as possible evidence that the early medieval period was either exaggerated or outright invented. Most historians reject this idea, citing substantial physical evidence from manuscripts, structures, and carbon dating that confirm these centuries did in fact happen. Since the 1970s, reports have surfaced worldwide about a low-frequency humming sound that seems to have no clear source. This strange noise, often referred to as the hum, is most commonly reported in the UK, the US, Canada, and Australia. It is described as a persistent droning vibration that only a small percentage of people can hear. Some individuals affected by the hum report headaches, nausea, and even sleep disturbances due to its constant presence. Scientific studies have attempted to explain it with theories ranging from industrial equipment, underground gas pipelines, or even geological activity. However, in several cases, no external sound sources have been detected, leading to speculation about a psychological or neurological phenomenon. Despite decades of investigation, the cause of the hum remains unknown. Some believe it is linked to military experiments, secret communication networks, or even an unknown natural phenomenon. In 1939, at the New York World's Fair, organizers sealed a time capsule designed to be opened 5,000 years in the future. Among the many items included, such as microfilm records, currency, and a dictionary, there was a mysterious wax cylinder labeled "The Rhythm of Life." When the capsule was finally examined in 2020, experts managed to play the recording, revealing a strange, rhythmic pulse that resembled a heartbeat. Initially, some speculated that it was an actual human heartbeat, possibly recorded from one of the fair's organizers. However, further analysis suggested that it was likely a metronome mistakenly included in the capsule. In 2010, British intelligence analyst Gareth Williams was found dead in his London apartment under circumstances that remain unexplained. His body was discovered inside a locked travel bag with no clear signs of struggle or forced entry. The case left investigators baffled. Some experts even questioned whether it was possible for him to have gotten inside alone. Despite an official ruling that his death was likely accidental, speculation persisted. Given his work in cyber intelligence, theories emerged suggesting he may have been targeted for reasons unknown. In the late 19th century, a mysterious figure known only as the Leather Man roamed the roads of Connecticut and New York. He followed a strict 365-mile loop, completing the journey every 34 days like clockwork, regardless of weather conditions. Dressed entirely in handmade leather clothing, he rarely spoke to anyone. Locals became accustomed to his silent presence, offering him food as he passed through. Despite many attempts to learn his identity, he refused to share his past. In 1889, he was found dead in a cave, where he often sheltered during his travels. His cause of death was attributed to exposure and malnutrition, yet his true origins remained unknown. Decades later, when his grave was exhumed for forensic analysis, researchers were shocked to find that his remains were missing. In 1921, the five-masted cargo ship Carroll A. Deering was found run aground on the coast of North Carolina. The ship was fully intact, yet the entire crew had vanished. The lifeboats were missing, but oddly, no distress signals were ever sent, and there were no signs of a struggle. Investigators discovered that the crew's personal belongings, logbooks, and navigation equipment were all gone, as if they had abandoned the ship in an orderly manner. However, the mystery deepened when none of the crew members were ever found, despite extensive searches along the coastline. Some theories suggest pirates, a mutiny, or even paranormal forces were responsible, as the ship was discovered near the infamous Bermuda Triangle. In 2013, guests at the infamous Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles noticed unusual issues with the building's water supply. When maintenance staff investigated, they made a chilling discovery, something that would turn the case into one of the internet's most talked about mysteries. Elisa Lam, a Canadian student who had been missing for weeks, was found in one of the rooftop water tanks under circumstances that defied easy explanation. Adding to the mystery, security footage from the hotel's elevator showed her behaving strangely, pressing multiple buttons, stepping in and out, and appearing to react to something unseen. Many theories have emerged over the years, ranging from psychological factors to something far more mysterious. Despite an official ruling of accidental drowning, questions remain about how she ended up in a place that seemed nearly impossible to access alone. Sigurd Eysteinsson, better known as Sigurd the Mighty, was a fierce Viking warlord whose reign of terror across Scotland made him a legend. A warrior feared by many, he dominated his enemies with brutal efficiency, but fate had an ironic end in store for him. After a victorious battle, Sigurd claimed a gruesome trophy, his fallen rival's severed head. Tying it to his saddle, he rode home, basking in his triumph. But as the journey continued, an unnoticed detail sealed his fate. The head shifted against his leg, leaving a small scratch. In an age without antibiotics, even the smallest wounds could turn deadly. Days later, infection took hold, and despite his might on the battlefield, Sigurd found himself powerless against an unseen enemy. In 1928, newlyweds Bessie and Glenn Hyde set out on a daring honeymoon adventure, rafting through the treacherous Grand Canyon. They aimed to set a speed record, with Glenn, an experienced boatman, leading the way. However, they were never seen again. Weeks later, a search party discovered their abandoned boat, still fully packed with supplies, untouched, and in perfect condition. There were no signs of struggle or evidence of capsizing. It was as if the couple had simply vanished into thin air. Years later, a strange encounter deepened the mystery. In the 1970s, a woman claimed to be Bessie Hyde, saying she had murdered Glenn and escaped, but she later retracted the confession. Another theory suggested that a reclusive Grand Canyon hermit had killed them. Despite decades of speculation, no bodies were ever found. In April 1991, 35-year-old Christopher Case, a Seattle-based music executive, was found dead in his bathtub under bizarre circumstances. Though there was no water in the tub, Case was found fully clothed, kneeling with his hands clasped as if praying, or frozen in fear. Days before his death, he had confided in friends that he believed he was cursed. According to Case, he had declined the romantic advances of a woman who was deeply involved in the occult. She allegedly warned him that he would soon die, and shortly after, he began experiencing paranormal events. He claimed that unseen forces were tormenting him at night, whispering and moving objects around his apartment. When police investigated, they found dozens of candles, crucifixes, and salt lines placed around his home, as if he had been desperately trying to protect himself. Despite the eerie setting, the autopsy revealed no signs of foul play. The cause of death was listed as heart failure. In 1968, Hollywood actor Albert Decker, known for his roles in classic films like Dr. Cyclops and The Killers, was found dead under bizarre circumstances in his Los Angeles apartment. After being missing for several days, his fiancée broke into his home, only to make a chilling discovery. Decker's body was found in his bathroom, with cryptic messages written across his skin and strange bindings on his hands. Authorities were baffled. There were no signs of forced entry or struggle. Yet the scene was anything but ordinary. Investigators ultimately ruled his death accidental, but speculation ran wild. Some believed it was a case of foul play, while others suggested a sinister blackmail scheme had gone wrong. In 1971, Frano Selak, a Croatian music teacher, was involved in a plane crash. When the aircraft malfunctioned mid-flight, he was sucked out of the cabin, yet miraculously survived by landing on a haystack while the plane crashed, killing nearly everyone else on board. His bizarre luck didn't end there. Over the years, Selak cheated death multiple times. A train he was on derailed into a river, yet he swam to safety. His car caught fire twice and he escaped both times just before it exploded. He was hit by a bus and survived. His car skidded off a mountain road, yet he managed to jump out before it plunged into a gorge. After surviving all these freak accidents, Selak eventually won the lottery in 2003. But despite his lifetime of incredible luck, he passed away in 2016 at the age of 87 from natural causes. In 1948, a distress signal was received from the Dutch freighter SS Orang Medan drifting in the Straits of Malacca. The chilling Morse code message read, "All officers, including captain, dead. Lying in chart room and bridge. Possibly whole crew dead. I die." A rescue ship rushed to the scene and found the entire crew dead, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. Some had their arms raised as if fending off an unseen force. No signs of struggle or injury were found, and the ship itself had no damage. Before investigators could board for further examination, a mysterious fire erupted, causing the ship to explode and sink beneath the waves. Theories about the crew's fate range from toxic gas leaks to paranormal activity, but with no survivors and the wreck never found. In December 1900, 3 lighthouse keepers stationed at the Flannan Isles Lighthouse off the coast of Scotland mysteriously disappeared. When a relief ship arrived, they found the lighthouse completely deserted, the door unlocked, half-eaten meals were left untouched, and the clocks had stopped. The only clue was the logbook, which contained eerie final entries. One keeper had written about a violent storm, though no record of a storm was reported in the area. Another mentioned feeling uneasy, and that they were praying more than usual, highly unusual for seasoned sailors. The last entry chillingly stated, "The storm has passed, the sea is calm, God is over all." No trace of the men was ever found. Theories range from freak waves sweeping them away to paranormal forces to one of them succumbing to madness and turning on the others. During the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, the USS West Virginia was struck by multiple torpedoes and bombs, sinking to the harbor floor. Though most of the crew perished in the initial attack, one sailor later identified as 19-year-old seaman Claude White was unknowingly trapped alive inside the sunken battleship. When the ship was finally salvaged 6 months later, workers discovered a chilling sight in a sealed compartment, a makeshift calendar with tally marks indicating that someone had survived for weeks in total darkness, rationing emergency supplies and waiting for rescue that never came. The confined space lacked sufficient oxygen, and his fate was sealed long before the ship was raised.